So today we are going to be talking about getting that money. So, one of the best parts of being your own boss, about having your own business, is the ability to earn what you think that you should earn, to earn your worth that you may felt like you weren't receiving in a 9 to 5. Managing the process. We've talked about invoicing. We've talked about sending estimates. Well, if you have the type of business where you are sending invoices, then you have to receive payments, right? The clients at some point will pay you, hopefully on time. And you need to understand how to apply those payments correctly in QuickBooks so that your records matches your client's records, and then there's no confusion on what is owed to you. So we're going to click on the Create button, and we're going to go down to Receive Payment. And then we're going to go over here to our customer, Bill's Windsurf. And let's assume, again, a lot of this you will see, it looks really, really familiar, right? Just because of how QuickBooks is very uniform and the way they lay out information on the screen. You're going to choose your payment method. So let's assume that Bill's Windsurf, wrote a check. And the reason I'm going to assume that other than the credit card, because if you had a credit card, you would actually have to process it. In order to process it, you would need to have a merchant services account. We don't have any of that set up in the demo. So we're going to go old school and assume that Bill's Windsurf Shop mailed you a check. Check number 1222. This is important because we want to make sure that this deposit to account is always, I repeat, always defaulted to undeposited funds. And that is because there's going to be no instance where you're going to physically deposit checks to the bank one by one. If you receive checks from your clients, more than likely they will sit in a folder on your desk, and once or twice a week you're going to physically make a deposit at the bank, or if you're scanning them on your check on the app on your phone, that's a different thing. But for the most part, you're going to be doing these in batches. So we want to make sure that our deposit matches what's deposited at the bank. We're going to go over deposits a little later, but just trust me, you want to make sure your deposit to account says undeposited funds. So let's go over and say how much the client sent us. He sent us, let's assume he sent $900. So I don't know if you saw that, but I said that the client sent us $900, and QuickBooks automatically applied the payment. So they're assuming that he paid $885 on invoice 1027, and then $815 on invoice 1038. That is not what my client intended. He actually was intending to pay $845 on this invoice and only $25 on that invoice because he thought it was for $25. Now, why is this even remotely important? Because you want to make sure that how you are applying your client's payments matches how they intend for you to apply them. A lot of times, if a client is paying multiple invoices, you will see that noted on the check stub. They will usually list what checks they're being paid that are being paid with this particular what invoices that are being paid with this check. Take the time to make sure that how you're applying payments in QuickBooks matches how your client intended it to. QuickBooks is always going to automatically default to automatically applying payments, and we will turn that feature off. I will show you how. I think we did it in our setup, but again, because this is a demo account, every time we log back into the demo account, it defaults back to the standard settings. So I say all that to say, just be careful. So we've applied our payment. And if we had any memos or any attachments, again, it's a very consistent thing in QuickBooks, then we can just hit save and new. Let's just assume that we have more payments that we're going to receive. So let's say we were looking by invoice number. So save and new took you right back to the received payment. And then you could just, again, search for your next invoice and key the payment in. In this case, you'll see that Amy's Bird Sanctuary has an open invoice. The original amount was $459. She only owes $239. Then, make sure that whatever she's paying is what she owes. And then once you're done with this, you can run reports on accounts receivable to track to make sure that none of your clients have become past due. So we're going to close that out because honestly, that is the gist of receiving payments. It is quite simple, but for some reason it is part of QuickBooks that tends to trip up a lot of business owners. And I think it's for two reasons. The biggest trip up I have found, and which is why I'm going to overemphasize it, is this deposit to account, making sure that it says undeposited funds and nothing else. And then the other, this is sales receipt. And then the other, I'm sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing, receipt payment. So again, make sure your deposit to account says undeposited funds. And then the other thing would be making sure that your, the payments that you record in QuickBooks match exactly how the client intended for them to be paid. If you do those two things, your books will be in such better shape than, I would say, 60% of other small business owners out there who are just winging it. Because when I get hired to do cleanup work, I tell you, I kid you not, that is one of the biggest mistakes that I see. And it causes clients to double book their income. And it just creates this huge mess. So if you learn nothing else today, make sure that you do those two things, that any money that you receive goes to undeposited funds, and any payments that you receive are applied exactly the way the client wants you to do them. So that's it for our lesson on receiving payments, and we will see you shortly for our next lesson.